So our acknowledgement of country this week takes a slightly different format to the ones that we have thought about and engaged with in previous weeks. So in this week, we are listening to an Aboriginal Australian artist called Tony Albert talk about his practice. And what I'd like you to think about as you're listening to Tony talk about his work is the way in which he is acknowledging Aboriginal culture and also acknowledging the ways in which Aboriginal culture has been misused and misrepresented. And so, whilst it is not a conventional acknowledgement as such, what I'm wanting you to do is come at it from a slightly different angle and listen to him and consider what he's saying about the ways in which his culture has suffered but also survived into contemporary times. And so his words and his thinking provide us with a way to start thinking about appropriation. And appropriation is one of the key sort of sub-themes for this particular week. So we're looking at these ideas of possession, appropriation, and pedagogical extractivism, all through the visual arts, because of course the visual arts is this week's sort of main thrust. So as you listen to him, think about what he's saying about this misrepresentation. And in particular, I'd like you to think about how listening to Tony Albert talk about the how and the why of his practice prompts important thinking about the appropriation of Indigenous culture and symbols, and in turn how you are now transforming your pedagogical approach to learning in the visual arts. So I'm going to put a very obvious seed here for you to think about. So often, Aboriginal symbols and ochre paint are put together in the primary art classroom as a way to learn about Indigenous art. I'd want you to start thinking about how that quite often is appropriation and the misuse of Indigenous culture. And I want you to think about how that kind of activity, ochre paint and dot painting, is something that you are going to stay well away from in your practice as a teacher.